Okay, team. So hello, everyone. Welcome back to the session. Hope you're all back as well. So are you all able to hear me, team? Can I just get a quick confirmation, please? Okay, great. Thank you, team. Thank you all for the quick confirmation. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Right. So I think, team, we're all good to start with the session, right? So just for a quick recap, team, yesterday we were working on how to build CI pipeline, right? That is what we were mainly working on. And then we were able to construct the CI pipeline and understand how do we automate the whole process, right? The entire thing we were discussing, team, yesterday. And I believe that a few of you might have tried by now, and I hope that you are all able to do that as well. So is there anyone who were able to complete this particular thing, team, yesterday? You tried? So this was what we were doing, team. We were building the various jobs using the Jenkins, and how do you configure each job, and then how do you look at the contents and reconfigure a job inside it? How can we modify the various settings? We understood about what are the build triggers, build steps, and the post-build actions, when to use, how to use everything. Now, along with the theme, we also constructed a CI pipeline view where we said it is the jobs in the build code process will be executed in a sequential manner. Whenever there is a change on the GitHub-like repository using the webhook configuration, we were able to see that the entire flow was triggered automatically as soon as we commit the changes in the source code repository on the GitHub, right? So this is what we understood, team. I think this is where we stopped discussion yesterday. This was the primary thing we understood. And I hope that everybody is clear on all these things, whatever we discussed yesterday. So any questions on yesterday's topics, team? Let me know. Are we all clear? Okay. Okay, then, great, team. Let's start understanding the few more topics in Jenkins as we talked about, team. This is on the Jenkins administration side now. As a DevOps engineer, you might have to know a couple of important things, how to configure and then how to set those things. The first topic, team, which I would like to talk is that about securing your Jenkins console. Now, as of now, team, as default settings that we set, that we configured during the installation, we configured one default user called admin. And with the admin, if I'm able to log in, I'm able to do anything on the Jenkins console, right? I'll be able to perform any action like delete, modify, create, right? Set something on the Jenkins server side configurations, configuring the global tools, installing the plugins. We could do anything, team. That is one thing we tried yesterday. We were working on almost all the options. But the understanding is that, team, in the real time, you may get a privileged access, like you can only read something, like you can see the jobs but cannot execute them. Or you may also see and execute it but cannot delete or create a job. Something like different levels of permissions can be configured on a Jenkins console. Now, given a scenario, team, that if you are the person who are setting up the Jenkins environment and the developers may not work, but they still need a read access, right? Whenever they want to have to look at the log, some kind of a read access should be given to the developers, right? So that they can read the errors in the build code process stages, and then they may try to figure out and then fix it. Rather you sending them, you just give them the link and ask them to look at it, right? So that is how, team. The question is that now, how do we configure that different levels of access? That is what the understanding, that is like nothing but securing your Jenkins console, right? As the admin, team, remember, admin is the person who is the, can have everything. but the rest of the people should have a minimum access. So as an administrator team, the administrator can enable the settings accordingly. Now, whenever we talk about settings, we always go to the manage Jenkins on the left side. Now, under that, you see a big section team about the security, right? Now, under the security team, there are two options. Now you see the configuring the global security, and also we can use the manage users everything. So the first thing, click on the configure a global security. Now, when you click on the configure global security team, it says that the authentication, the first one, like the username and passwords are validated, but where are those usernames and passwords are saved by default? If you create some users, Jenkins has its own default user database team. Remember, Jenkins stores all the configuration inside Jenkins server itself. Like I've shown you under the varlib Jenkins, under the Jenkins home, all the Jenkins configuration, including the users, get reside in that particular folder itself. So otherwise, team, remember, we can integrate the Jenkins with some external user databases to validate a user credentials from an external service like LDAP or Active Directory. Even a cloud-based authentication like IAM, something, we can use that. But again, you need to have those setups ready to do that one. Since we do not have all those different things, team, we will still going to rely on this Jenkins own user database for the authentication purpose. Remember, team, when we talk about the security, there are two things: authentication, then the authorization. Now, authentication is all about just validating the credentials, like whether the username and password provided are correct or not. If they are valid, you will be allowed to log in. If they are not valid, you will be kicked out of it. Now, this is the idea, team. So we are setting up this particular thing first of all. Now, we also can allow the users to sign up on the Jenkins if I enable this option. Just like you sign up team on the Facebook or a GitHub or anywhere, you just sign up yourself. Later, you use your credentials to log in every time. That is what it is. It is not SSO. We can even enable SSO, but that is a different case. So this is the idea. Now, when we talk about the second section, which is the authorization. Now, the authorization is something, team, the default setting, you see that a logged in users can do anything, which means you need to log in. As soon as you log in, you become an administrator. It can be done anything. But we can also set the different levels of access here, right? Anyone can do anything like disabling it, security, and all that stuff. So this is the idea, team, but I'm not doing anything here. I just want all of you to sign up first of all. So I'll apply this one. I'll talk about the authorization later, but say that first of all, let me allow you to sign up. Now, what I'm trying to give you is that, team, I'm giving you the URL right now in the chat box, right? Everybody should be able to hit that. Now, you will be able to see this page, team, now. As soon as you hit the URL that I gave you in the browser, you should be able to hit that in your browsers if you are in front of your system. And on this page, you see that please sign in or create an account, right? Now you can start creating an account of your own. Say, click on the create account. Click on the create account and then say that you start putting your name. Horatius, by name I'm using it. Any details you wanted and set up your own password for yourself, right? So, and then say create account. Now, once you create your account, I should be able to see that you're all able to log in with your own credentials, right? And also, team, you all should be able to get the full rights as well. Do not do anything, team. Do not mess with any configuration, please. Just create an account and you should be able to sign in and see whatever I'm seeing on this screen right now. Just like an admin user, you should be able to see everything at first. That is the intention that I'm giving you. So yes, team, I want to see who are all registering actually. Now I can see that these many people have already created the accounts. And I believe that rest of you are also trying to do. I can see that. Now, the people who have registered, people who have created their accounts, I will be able to see here on this screen. I mean, this is how the Jenkins will allow me to see or manage the users accordingly. Yes, team, is everyone else trying to do that? Okay, I see very few people have registered. Great, no problem. Yeah. As you can see, team, those whoever wants to register, you can start registering. Now, this is how, team, you all got an access to my Jenkins console. But again, team, there is a problem that everybody is now an administrator, right? Everybody is an administrator in the sense that you all should be able to do anything that we did it yesterday, right? We all should be able to do whatever we did yesterday. We can even create a users here if I wanted. So here it's a create user. This, if I want to create as an admin, I can also do it. But easy thing is to register as well. Right. So this is the idea, team. This is what you see it now, that many of you are registering and many of you are able to log in to the Jenkins console with your own credentials. The same Jenkins, everybody is logged in right now. Now, this is called authentication, team, means you can log out, you can log in multiple times, whatever the credential you set, that is called authentication, right? Authentication as such, again, your username and password are validated and then allowed you to get inside accordingly. So the next thing is that since you're all now able to authenticate yourself and you see all the settings that I'm seeing it, but I want to give all of you a restricted access, right? Now, when you talk about restricting the access, team, now this is where, again, we just go to the global security under the manage Jenkins page. Now, the second setting, again, it is the authorization, where I said the logged in users can do anything. Now, that's the reason you're all able to become an admin by default. But if I want to give a restricted access, team, then we will move on to this matrix-based security, right? When I click on this matrix-based security, now you see that I can set up a different level of permission on the different sets of the Jenkins configurations. Now I say that, team, the authenticated users get read-only, but I also can use add user here. And whatever the username you created, I can start on it, but I'm giving the default admin user. Now the default admin user gets a full privilege, like he's still become an admin, but the authenticated users like you can just read only something. Means just you get an overall read only permission. Now I'm just saving this configuration, team, right? Now I hope you all might have lost the access. Can you check it? Can you all check now, team, everybody? You can log in now with your own credentials. Now you should not be able to see any job, any settings on the left side. Nothing will be visible. You're just authenticated and you just got the overall nothing. Yes, team? Is everyone lost the access now? Means lost access in a sense, lost the authorization. Like you're not going to see anything on the Jenkins like you see on my screen. It is just an empty page, nothing. If you click on the people, you see the people who are all get authenticated here are doing this one. Everything you miss it. You cannot see the manage Jenkins, you cannot see the new item, you cannot create jobs, you cannot see that. You may see this build history, some kind of the metrics, but nothing else apart from that one, right? You cannot see anything, correct? But still we share the link of console to dev team so they can log in, access the logs. That's right, Ganesh. We will be configuring the read access to them now, right? We will just show them what they wanted. This is the idea. Okay. So I'm just setting the default that everybody have no access now. That is what the intention is. Okay. Now, once I set now, let's see that I can start now creating, We can start now setting as an admin now. The admin now can allow a specific user to have a specific set of privilege. Now, I logged in as an admin user again, right? To give you all the necessary permissions. How do I do that? Now, as an admin, I go to the manage Jenkins. Now I'll go to the global security. The default options are the T. You cannot have a groups created, but the individual users now can be accessed like this. Say, for example, add user. Now I give the name of the user, say Naresh is my default user. Now, once I add a user, just like the admin team here, remember that we can restrict now the Naresh can have a permission on the job as well, read permission, right? Remember, overall read permission with which you're able to see the basic. But along with that, I'm also giving the job section above. Now, under the job section that you see that the workspace access, read access, and see that a move access something, or you want to give it. This is just like a very basic permission. Assume that he is just the, he's just the fresher maybe. So he get a minimum access. Now, can somebody ping me a username, team? Anyone? Any one of you? Exact username you created, you logged in maybe. Is it the username Karthik? Karthik underscore 23. Yeah, I'm able to see that. Okay, give me the simple usernames, team. Raju, great. You can do that as well, Ramakant. You just need to have a AD plugin installed and then start doing that. Okay, the answer is yes. So likewise, team, I will be adding the users now, like whoever needs to have a specific privilege, right? Sudeep something, right? Who else? Sri 9991. Like you see this team, I am adding the people like this now. Whatever the people, they should be keep adding it. That is what you do it. Anjali, that's not the right name it says. You need to give me the exact name that you logged in with. Not your name, but the username that you said during the Pradeep, you're also something wrong. Okay, I can see Ashwin. Okay. Okay, so now team, as I can see that Gopal, that's a wrong name. Vinay, that is also wrong name. Vinay H. I don't get that name. Upendra, I got your name already. That is also working, not working, Vinay. We have to do that as well. We can use a set of separate plugins, Ganesh. Plugins have to be installed. The default, there is no group creation sections are available within the Jenkins configuration. In order to do that, you need to have a specific plugin installed, like a role-based, plugins installed, role-based authorization, and then we need to do that. Okay. Karthik, I added. See, team, those who have, not forget, Anmol. Yeah, Anmol, I got it. Wipin, no, that's a wrong name. Okay, I've tried something, team. Thank you all. Shubham. Shubham, that's also wrong. I don't know what other names you kept it for logging in. While you logging in, whatever the credentials you're putting on the text box, you need to put that. Guys, I'm not sure, guys. See, you guys don't understand this, right? So I am not having anything on my screen, Karthik. Again, I'm telling you. So there is nothing that I can do from my side. If you are seeing the name of the Zoom, so on the screen, right? That is something on your Zoom, you need to do it, because you can even check the recordings. I was checking the recordings yesterday, that there was no issue in the recording either, that I'm seeing it. Team, everyone, I'm not sure that how is everyone seeing the name screen, team, on your screen? Is everyone seeing it, the name screen? No, Ramakant is not seeing it. So if one person is also not seeing team, then which means that there is no setting that I can do from my side, because it's shared correctly. That's right. No, that's what I'm saying. I cannot do anything from my side, guys. I know that there are a couple of people written in the comment section as well in the feedback. Let me tell you honestly, I even reached out to the team yesterday asking that, is there anything wrong in the recording? Now, there is nothing wrong in the recording. You can squeeze the right side. I'm not sure, so because that is setting, even I'm not something I can do from my side here. Let me see if I can do this one. No, so this setting is not from my side, guys. Not sure, Ramakant. So, okay, some solution people are telling team, please squeeze the Zoom name screen to the right to do it. No, I understand, because I understand that, guys, because that setting even not even in control of me. I'm not sure how to do that, because I even reach out to the team. They say like, wait a second, hide floating meeting controls. I'm just trying to check if there is anything. Is that gone now? Maybe, I'm not sure. Anyone seeing any change now on the screen? Is it gone, something? No. Now? Is it changed now, anything? It's still there. So then in that case, guys, there's nothing that I actually can do that. Just give me a second, guys. I'm not sure. Are you still seeing the screen right now? No, that nothing to do with Apple, guys, because I'm not sure. Okay, Zoom ratio is also didn't work. Squeeze won't work. Okay, fine. Let me check with the team because everybody is reporting. I'm not sure, because if one person is not seeing team, that's the setting from your side. You need to check as well. It's from my side, it's everything is clear. Is there anyone seeing on the recording session? Do you see that recording session also available? On the recording session, do you see that? Recorded session, I'm seeing it on the LMS. You're here to use the recordings. Okay. Then I need to check with the team again. Team, let me see that. Okay. I mean, let's continue for today. I'll try to check with the team what to do with that. Okay. So maybe let's continue with the session. I'll try to talk to the team one more time today to resolve that problem. Maybe. Okay. Right. So let's move on, team, as we are talking about the authentication and the authorization part here, right? Now, we already understood about the authentication, as you all are able to authenticate yourself and then log in. Now, the authorization part, team, as I said, we configure like this. So this is what we see it. Now, along with this team, now everybody, I'm just giving a read access, the default overall view read access, right? But at the same time, team, for majority of you, I'm giving the read access on the jobs, which means that you're all able to see the jobs, right? This is what the option that I'm giving it. Now, this is the idea team that you select an option that you really want to do that, right? Now, along with this team, I'll check that, Arun. Thank you for that. Let me talk to the team today. Maybe I'll try to get resolved with that option. Now, along with this team, now you see that overall, everybody get this option. Now, along with this, I'm also giving a very few people with the create option. Create in the sense you all should be able to create a new job, right? Now, this is what the option that I'm giving it. Say, okay, for everybody team, I'm giving a create option as well, and also configure option. So these are the things which I'm giving it right now. Right. So if you all have the right set of permission now, team, you all should be able to create a job and configure the job. Okay. Now, can you go ahead and then log in back to the console and then check if you're all means up? I know that team I configured only for few people. For whoever you get an access, can you try creating that job here? Like I log in as Naresh, right? And then I should be able to see the view option. Now you should be able to see the options like this. On the left side, you still see the manage Jenkins option will be missing to you because the level of permission, they see it. Now on the left side, you say click on the new item, you can able to create a new job. So can you try creating a job with your name, Steve? Maybe just a name with your name, a job. So we'll see that if you're all having the right level of authorization or not. You may be able to create a job team, but you may not be able to execute the job. You should be, clear about that. I can see now a couple of people are creating it, compile, Harsha, something, right? You may be able to create a job, you may be able to configure a job, but you do not have an authorization to execute a job, is it? Can anybody execute a job? Try. So yeah, maybe I did not add a few people. Remember that I added whoever I can. So that's right. That's what I'm telling you, team. Everyone, you may be able to see create option, configure option, but still you cannot execute the jobs. That is like a permission that I gave you with that, right? So whatever the permission that I give you, that is how you see it. Now I can see that the Harsha, even a Naresh, which I logged in, is also able to see the jobs, able to configure a job from the others as well. But the Naresh user cannot execute the job, the simple idea. So this is called the authorization team that you may try doing it accordingly. Now, this is what in real time people also would do that, right? Helping, different level of people may get a different level of authorization to perform a specific actions. Like there can be one Jenkins console, which is managed by a Jenkins admin team. Now, there are n number of different projects given access to the Jenkins console with their specific level of access as required. So that is the idea, team, about how you configure an authentication authorization on the Jenkins console. Now, again, remember, only the admin can see all the things. Admin can control everything. The rest of the people will have a minimal access as we are configuring here. This is how you understand the scenario. Okay. So any questions on the authentication part and the authorization part here? Are we all clear? Can you give a shell script for the job? What job you're asking, Harsha? The Jenkins job creation, you need a shell script? Yes, Harsha. I have given a script to create a file. No, I did not get your question still. Harsha, did you create a job and you're saying that you want a build permission? You may be saying that you want a build permission to execute what you have put in that job, if I'm right. That's what you're expecting, right? So here it is, the build permission that I added. I think it is Sai Harsha, right? That's right. So yeah, I Sai Harsha, that is what it is. Now you should be able to build maybe. If you have done something, you should be able to build it and you should be able to run it. So you should say that it's an execute permission, build permission that you can do it. Now, this is the idea team in the real time as well. Like you see many jobs that are being created for the various projects and it will be available. Now, if you have this kind of a situation, now we understood the pipeline view, that will help you the things to understand the pipeline as well. So this is the logical understanding team about now Harsha is able to execute multiple times. He's able to run the job successfully. That's what you see it, right? Great. So this is the understanding team. And I believe that now everybody is clear on what is authentication, what is authorization, and how do we restrict the users to a specific roles in the Jenkins. So if you are seeing that you're all clear on this particular topic team, right, we can move forward with the next topic here. That is what we can do it. So shall we move on to the next topic, or do we have any questions on this part of the authentication and the authorization part? If anybody have any questions, we can discuss and we'll move on. That will be good enough, Jane. That will be good enough. You can tell that you can integrate with the, for authentication only, it will change most of the time. For the authentication purposes, if they ask you like, how do you authenticate the Jenkins console with various authentication strategies? The default is always that the Jenkins own user database. But you can say that we can integrate with LDAP, or you may also integrate with Active Directory or kind of the external user databases. And that's what you can tell the interviewer that we did that or we did this. That's what you can do it. Okay. This is what you do in your real time, Anmol. Whatever we did right now, that is part of your DevOps engineer role if you are doing this one. This will be remain same wherever your Jenkins is there, Harsha. It doesn't matter whether the server is an AWS, whether the server is a Google Cloud, whether the server is your local system, your local laptop. All these things will remain same thing because it's a Jenkins configuration, nothing to do with the server where you're running it, right? Jenkins is an application you're running in a server. It doesn't matter with the server where you run actually. It is technically the Jenkins configuration that will remain same irrespective of the server wherever it is. Okay. Pipeline is authenticate user. What? Pipeline is authenticate user. I didn't get your question, Raj. Pipeline is a process. It's a CI process that we done through the Jenkins. There is nothing to do with the user authentication with the pipeline here. You may give a specific set of permissions to a user to execute a pipeline that you may do it. Jenkins in cloud as a microservice or in EC2. Can we run this Jenkins in a cloud as a microservice? Now, aren't we running this in the EC2 instance, Ganesh? Isn't this an EC2 instance where you're running the Jenkins? Right? This is what we're doing, right? In the EC2 only, you're running this Jenkins service now, and we are trying to do that. You can also try doing as a microservice if you know the next level. That's okay. But do it, that is doable task. How to configure Jenkins in local? Can we have some link to share the doc? You can check the labs repository, Harsha, you will get all the documents in the lab repository. So one question on the CI pipeline setup. In waterfall development model, the developers develop the code. Does the compilation in iterative approach till all the code's errors are fixed? Does the peer code review packages and then performs the unit testing before they push the code to the next level? Wouldn't be difficult for DevOps engineers to coordinate with each developer individually back and forth in the CI pipeline set up to fix the code errors, standards, especially with multiple developers working in a team? Oh, that's a very big question, Upendra, to understand it, right? So see, the waterfall development model is not being followed right now. You know that. Now, in the waterfall model, or you are following that level of approach, you have ample of time. You're not doing the continuous builds, right? Where the developers complete work and then only you go for the build process. Once the developer do every job on their local scenario, right? So they complete the coding, they complete the unit testing, they complete the code review on their local. Then multiple developers will be merging the code into a centralized repository that everybody does their own job. Now, this all process may take a month of time for them to complete it because we are in the waterfall, as you're saying it. Now, once everything is done, you may build that after a couple of weeks or maybe a month, something. The build process is not continuous when you adopting the waterfall or the way back in the time situation, right? Now, we are all doing this continuous process. Understand that the continuous process as such, we said whenever there is a push happening to a GitHub repository, right? We are immediately taking the code and publishing or, trying to do the code review and then performing the various testing. Now, the reason being is that technically try to understand that if the developers are making 100 commits, for example scenario, we said like for every commit or maybe every couple of commits, we build the code, we perform the build code process, something we did with the Jenkins, right? Now the reason is that team to find out the mistakes early. Now you know that when I have two commits and those two commits are done by a specific developer, it can be easily identified, and then based on that you can reach out to the developer to fix that problem quickly. But for some scenario, let's say that you didn't perform the build code process, right, in the last 2 to 3 days or the 1 week or 2 weeks of time, for example. Now, by the time many developers may have made hundreds of commits, right? Now, out of all those 100 commits now, think about a scenario, out of all those 100 commits, which commit or which change is causing the problem, if there is any? Assume that the build code process is failing it. Now, can you identify what exactly the commit, what exactly the change is causing the failure in the build code process? Can you identify that, Upendra? What do you think? Is that easy for you now because there are hundreds of commits made by the multiple developers, and then I'm building the code after 2 weeks of time, right? Now, and the build code process is failed after 2 weeks of time when I did it. Now, out of all those changes pushed by many developers, which change is exactly causing that problem? Now, it cannot be all those changes done by the developers team. It can be one or two changes done are breaking the code in the build code process. Now, it is difficult for me to identify that which change is causing the problem. Means the developers, all the developers again have to look at the code like which is causing the problem. In that case, it is going to be a big problem for all the developers, even for you, even technically. That is what is happening. Now, that's the reason we said like, okay, instead of doing that way, let maybe do it for every push. Now we know that who did the push basically, right? So the other developers keep quiet, simple as that, right? So the push was done by the process as XYZ person. Now, whenever the build is failed, now we know that the XYZ push is causing the problem. The issue is redirected into that XYZ person directly, so that other developers will still work on their own process in the parallel. So when they push it, if their commit is failed, we will direct them. Similarly, it is easy for me to identify now that which change is causing the build failure, right? So that is the reason we said that we have to do the more frequent builds, when you have multiple developers, every developer, there is a pull request. Mostly we do on the pull request, right? The developers have to create a pull request to merge the code into the main. Now, when the developer is creating a pull request, we know that that specific developer has done some changes. Now, based on the pull request, we trigger this pipeline. Now, because of that change, because of that pull request made by the specific developer, the build is failing. Now, change goes to that particular developer. The other developers will try to work on their things in parallel. Now, that answers your question, maybe, Upendra. Yes or no? Is that clear? I know it's a big thing to understand, a lot of process to be involved in, how to commit, how to push, how to do this one. So that is the idea. Okay, good. So any other questions? I know, team, a few people who are very new to this technology or new to this DevOps world might be feeling some difficult to understand the words sometimes we use. So the only solution for you guys is to, you know, re-go through the recording multiple times, try to understand the words and re-practice everything. I know, team, we are also trying to finish more technologies here. Like, I think the course is given for us to 40 hours mostly. Now, within the 40 hours of time, we are trying to understand not a single technology, right? It is like multiple technologies like Git, Jenkins, then Ansible, and so on and so on. So in that situation, Steve, every tool I'll be able to discuss maximum of 6 to 8 hours of time. So understand that, team, we cannot learn a complete understanding on a specific software tool within 8 hours of time, right? So it is just like the understanding of how we use these tools in the real time to implement the overall DevOps process. And then later you all will be learning the deep dive of each and every tool as needed. Because again, you don't need to learn all the tools in deep dive, remember that. But knowing all these tools is necessary as a DevOps engineer. Now, the purpose of this course is to make you understand all these tools are being used, how and where they fit in the DevOps process. That is the reason we are all discussing this. And once you finish with this course, you do a specialization on any specific technology that interests you, like maybe Jenkins or maybe config management or maybe containers. You have to do some kind of the deep learning on the specific technology, and that will be your specialization in the DevOps area. That's how you plan things slowly one by one, right? So again, that's the idea. Is there any global certification available for DevOps? Because DevOps is just a process adopted by many organizations. So technically, only the institutions will provide you the DevOps certifications, but there is no standard global certification for that, Ramakant. Okay. Like the institutions like maybe IntelliBad or Simplilearn or maybe some kind of the people who did it, but no specific global certification for DevOps process. Okay, so with that being said, team, I know we just understood about one topic. Now we will talk about the next topic, which is also one important topic in the Jenkins, right? So here, maybe if I start the topic, team, it will take more time to understand, make you things. So shall we take a break before that quickly and then come back and discuss the new topic, everybody? If you don't want break, I'll continue. I'm telling you, but I will not be able to give a break if I start the topic now. No 10 minutes, sir. Only 5 minutes is the maximum break we can take in this course. Sorry, but I know we need to cover the technology. That's the reason we need to spend 5 minutes. Yeah, let's break for 5 minutes. I'll be seeing you in 5 minutes now. Okay, so team, I'm back, and I hope that everybody's back as well. So can we just give me a quick confirmation, please, everyone? Yes, team, is everyone back? Okay, great. Now let's start discussing a concept in the Jenkins team. We call it as the Jenkins master-slave concept, or it is also called as the Jenkins master-agent concept, remember. Now we call this as team Jenkins, you may call it as the master-slave concept, or people may call it as the master-agent concept, or you may call it as well the controller called as the controller and agent concept. Now, what is this concept and why do we need it? Now, most of you might be already aware to what is called as the master and the slave architectures we use generally for offloading work. But the general idea, team, I'm trying to give you. Now, think about a situation, team, here. Anything that you run, remember, team, this Jenkins is a process. Remember the Jenkins UI application that you see in a browser is not actually within your laptop, right? This is actually a process or the application running in my EC2 instance, correct? Now, this is the server where it is actually running as a process. Remember? Now, when a process is running on a server, team, what does it consume basically? When you open an application on your laptop, what does it consume from your laptop technically? Yes, team, everybody. When something you launched, think about your laptop, team, you open the PuTTY application, you open a browser, you open any application on your laptop. Now, to run that application, team, it uses some of the resources from your computer hardware like CPU and RAM, and also displays something as needed. Remember, team, that is what I'm telling it. Now, what happens if you open too many applications in your laptop? So you said one application is fine, two applications is fine. You open 100 different applications, 100 different tabs on your browser. What happens to your computer? Can I say that your laptop will slow down, first of all? Maybe after some time, this laptop will become unresponsive. That's what I'm saying. Assume that you have only 2 GB of RAM. Think about a very minimal thing. You have it. Say I'm giving you only 2 GB of RAM on your laptop. How many applications would you run? Reduce the thread in the client node. So the final thing is that, team, when you try to have a less resource on your system, and then when you have more number of application processes that invoked in your computer, your laptop will slow down, and then your laptop eventually will get crashed as well, because there is not enough resource to execute all those application running on your laptop, right? Now, the same thing with the EC2 as well, team. Remember, EC2 is also server like your laptop. Now, which also has some specific set of resources we have taken on the cloud. How much resource we have taken for EC2? Now, we have taken one CPU, team. Remember, the number of CPUs that are given for your EC2 instance is 1. Now, along with that, the memory that you have taken maybe 1 or a 2 GB maximum. See that there is around 1972, which is around GB. So the idea here is that, team, remember, you have a limited amount of resources are given on your EC2 instance, which is the virtual server on the cloud. Remember, that is like your laptop, but it has the specific capacity. Now, along with this, team, remember, every execution that you're doing here, the pipeline that we're running, remember that every job that you're running is like running process on your laptop or on your server here. Say if I check this Java process, remember it is a Java basically. Now you see that there is a Java which is Jenkins already running. Along with that, you might see that there are a number of processes that starts running it, right? So as soon as you invoke a job in your Jenkins console, which means that it is like running a process application on your backend server, means it is actually consuming the resource like CPU and RAM of your computer here or the virtual server. Now, in this situation, team, for example, with a given 2 GB of a RAM, with a given 2 GB of a RAM on my virtual server, now if I trigger all these jobs in parallel, for example, I have 100 jobs here. If I trigger all these jobs in parallel at once, what happens to my lab system here? Will that work? The first scenario I'm telling it, what happens if Jenkins has 100 jobs and I trigger all the 100 jobs at once? Will my EC2 function with the capacity that I have? It will not, right? Forget about all those things. I'm just talking about the situation we have right now, Ramaka, right? The situation we are in right now is that the server going to crash, correct? Everybody, can we say that? That's what happens, right? So this is the reason, team. Remember that the first reason, like you cannot run many of the Jenkins jobs in parallel, and that is directly proportional to the capacity on your server, right? That is one thing. Scenario one is about if you run too many jobs, the system will crash. And because of some bad job as well, say some bad process can take all the memory as well sometimes. Say, for example, you have on your laptop again, you have a browser, you have a VLC. Now the browser is taking the majority of the memory because you opened 100 tabs in it, something like a single process taking the maximum memory, leaving no memory for the other processes. That is one scenario will be there. So the idea here is that, team, again, like I said, in your Jenkins console, we have one pipeline created like that. Say we may create a pipelines for different projects or different scenarios. One single Jenkins is being used by multiple teams and multiple teams have a different pipelines created. Now everybody is executing their pipeline. Now a couple of pipelines are very good, but the third pipeline is actually causing the problem. Means that because of the third pipeline consuming all the resource on my server, the first pipeline and second pipeline are failing it. I hope you're all getting the points, team. The reason why we go for this approach is that the second scenario, we have 3 pipelines on our Jenkins console, and you have only one Jenkins server right now. All the 3 pipelines are executed. But the pipeline 3 is what is taking all the resource. Like when it executed, it taken the most of CPU and majority of the RAM from my server, leaving no room to run the other pipelines at all, right? Now, this is also one big problem, team, when Jenkins is shared. Jenkins is shared across multiple teams. One pipeline can cause the disturbance to the other pipeline, and that will lead to all the other problems. Again, we're not discussing that. So how do I resolve this problem is the question. Remember, how do I resolve this problem is the question here. Now, this is where, team, we talk about the Jenkins master slave architecture or Jenkins master agent concept, which is mandatorily be implemented on the real time, right? So far, team, wherever you install the Jenkins tool, which I can term it as the Jenkins master. Remember, team, this is the EC2 instance which we took on the AWS cloud, right? Wherever you install the Jenkins server so far, where you built the jobs and everything, that's what is called as the Jenkins master in a way, right? Now, when you remember, team, on this EC2, we installed Git, we installed Maven, we installed Java, and we also installed the Jenkins server. Remember, we took one EC2 and we installed all these tools along with the Jenkins server process running here. Or in other words, team, I'll tell you to remember simply all the time that, right, whichever the VM, call it, whichever the VM or a server, right, where you, right, from which, right, server, from which you can launch, right, what you can launch Jenkins UI. What is a Jenkins UI, team? The Jenkins UI is nothing but this console, right? Remember, team, this is the IP that I installed it. This is the port number. Now this is the Jenkins UI, I'm calling it. Now, whichever this server or VM from which you can launch the Jenkins UI, is always the Jenkins master, is always the Jenkins master, we call it. Okay, understand, a Jenkins master, or it can be called as the Jenkins controller as well in terminology wise. Remember, in this way, team, it will be easy for you to remember. Okay. Now we said that every execution that we did so far is happened on the Jenkins master VM, and it was consuming the resources from the Jenkins master VM itself. Now I said, like, in order to avoid the disturbance for the different pipelines using the same Jenkins master, right? What do we do normally? We try building the team. Can we use the Jenkins UI in Linux EC2 instance? What do you mean by that, Abhijit? From the EC2 instance only you launched it. Now, if you're talking about like your laptop, does the EC2 instance has a desktop? Maybe that's what is your question. Any browser should do for that. Your EC2 instances does not have a desktops, remember that. So you cannot launch it, okay? Your EC2 instance is a lightweight server component, which will not include a desktop like your Windows or the Mac like that. You may install a Linux with desktop, that's a different case, but not in the EC2 case. You don't have any desktops for those servers. They're just the servers only, okay? Right, so given that statement, team, now moving on here, in order to now, what are you saying it? In order to extend this one, team, what we do is that we're going to take another EC2 instance, right? Like your team, when you are overloaded, you share your work with your team members, right? You have a team manager and you have a team member. Think about now the hierarchy, like we are having a team manager here. The Jenkins master is now going to become a team manager. So far, he's the individual contributor, you may call it, if you talk about the real-time way. This is the team manager. Now he's promoted as a team manager. Now he's hiring a team member, right? To offload the work from him, right? To delegate the work to the other person. Assume that he's hiring a team member and then he starts delegating the work. Now this is again another EC2, you may take it, or this is actually the server or a VM, right? With some operating system, remember, this can be Linux or the Windows, again, anything can be there, right? So understanding is that, again, assume that we have a Linux OS on this as well, because in real time we use mostly the Linux, not the Windows mostly. So this is the idea, right? We take another one, then we ask team manager to delegate the work onto the team member, right? Now, what does a team member do? Listen to the manager, take the work, and then execute the work on the team side. So which means that the pipeline's now going to use the resources of the team member server. That is the idea. But how does manager communicate with VM team member here? That is what the settings we're going to do it, how we're going to work on it. Okay. So I hope, team, the concept is clear now. The way we're trying to build, you may call this as the master agent concept. Now this is the master, I call it again. Now this is the agent, you may call it, or you may call it as a slave as well. The concept is clear, I believe, now what we are trying to achieve, now why we are trying to achieve this one. Okay, so any questions, please feel free to let me know. But otherwise, team, I think on the AWS console, you know how to create a second virtual machine, right? You have already the VM1, I think we created on the day 2, right? So the same VM2, I'll be logging in right now. So here it is, team. I'll split the screen. On the right side, now I'm trying to log in with this one, say iPad and Ubuntu, integrate this one. Now on the right side, assume that the server is the agent, right? The 72 is now my agent VM, whereas the 2303 is the master instance, right? Now this is where, team, we are running the Java Jenkins file already, right? You see that there is a Jenkins application process is already running. Now, if I take something, team, on the second server, there is nothing running as of now. No agent is running, nothing is available. This is what you're trying to do. We will show you that, Raju, just hold on some time, right? Let's configure them first of all, team. Now, how a manager can communicate with worker something. Now, in order to do that settings team, remember that. And remember that we're going to execute the same Java project on the agent side as well. So technically team, we will have to install the same thing like git, maven, and the Java. Remember team, we are working on the Java project. So on the agent VM, the second VM as well, we will be installing the necessary tools. But we are not going to install the same Jenkins server. We will install something called as the Jenkins agent process here. Now I'll show you how to configure the Jenkins agent process. That is what we will be trying to do. Okay. So on the master, it will be running the Jenkins server, and the agent, it will be running the Jenkins agent process. I'll show you. Before this, we're installing the Jenkins agent. We will have to configure all these things here. What? As of now, did you perform any practical? We have, this is the practical, you may think about it. We did another concept earlier. We did about the security concept practical. Now this is the master agent concept practical. So what I'm trying to do here, team, on the second VM now, let's say that we will try to validate it. This is a Git version that I installed already. That Git is already there. Now, do you have the Maven here? MVN version. There is no Maven. Now there is no Java either, I believe. So what we need to do is that we will be installing the Maven and the Java missing on the second VM here, right? So let's go here, team. We follow the same instruction that we were following it, right? While installing the Jenkins, the same GitLab, instruction here. You will install the Java, and then you will also install the Maven. So what I'll do, I'll take these three instructions, and I'm executing on this particular server. Okay. So this will take care of installing the Java first of all, team. Now, once the Java is installed on the agent VM, then we also going to install the Maven, which is necessary because if the master delegates the work onto the agent should be able to execute the Java project as a Maven, everything it should be able to run. So that is the reason we are installing the Java and the Maven on the agent VM as well. Okay. You can have as many agents as you want, Anmol. Thanks for asking it, right? You may have n number of agents, doesn't matter. Like each project now can be delegated onto a specific agent if you want it. Okay. You may have the different agents as well. The agent can be a Windows machine as well if you want it. All right, remember, your agent can be a Windows machine or agent can be a Mac machine. You may configure n number of agents to a single master. Like pipeline 1 goes to the agent 1, pipeline 2 can go to the agent 2, and so on, right? Say pipeline 1 here, and delegate means we'll configure them that which pipeline has to run where. Those configurations should be made accordingly. After we build the agents, we're going to configure that each pipeline will be delegated or dedicated to a specific agent so that a pipeline 1 will not disturb the pipeline 2. Simple concept, right? Right, so here it is. I think the Java is installed, team, on my server. Say the Java -version. Okay, the Java is installed. Now let's go ahead and install the Maven as well. Right, this one. The same instruction, team, that I'm using it. Okay, this is quick enough. Now let's go and look at the other three instructions as well. Now, once you run these three instructions, team, as well, so let's try to test if you have the Maven version. Yeah, there you go, team. You can even see that the Maven is now successfully installed on the second server. That is the idea. This is the idea. Let's wait and see those things, Vishal. Let's finish the setup. Follow the setup. That will be very much important for you to set up the things, right? As a DevOps engineer, setting up these things are really important. Then you will see the results anyway that will be followed when we execute. So here it is, team. We have the necessary tools now configured on the target. We have it, right? Git hyphen version or it is hyphen version? Okay, it is hyphen version. Sorry. Now you see this team, all the necessary tools are now installed, right? All the necessary tools are now installed on the second VM as well. Now, once we are done with the necessary installations, team everyone, I request while I'm explaining it, please follow me and then do not put any questions, right? Once I finish the setup, I'll allow you anyway to ask your questions. So please, I request again, do not put any questions while I'm discussing. It will be confusing everybody else. So just follow me for now. So we just installed the necessary things on the second VM, which is like Git, Maven, and the Java that is done. Now, once that is done, now it is necessary that we need to connect the master to the agent. Now, to do that one, team, we'll go through the management UI here, the master UI. Go to the manage Jenkins option because we're going to tell the manager which is the agent and everything. So on the manage Jenkins team, if you look into it on the system configuration page or the system configuration here or this one, you see the manage nodes and clouds. Add or remove a control and monitor the various nodes that runs the Jenkins jobs on, which is nothing but the agent VM. So click on the manage nodes here. Now you see one default node, which is the built-in node that you see that is a master node itself. We have it. Now, if I want to add a new node, you can just click on the node monitoring, right? Just give me a second, team. Why is this showing the node monitoring that? Okay, so the new node option is on the top right, team. It is not the node monitoring we wanted. We want to add a new node on the top, right? So on the right side top, team, you see a blue color button where is a new node option. So click on the new node option here. Now it will ask you the node name while you're building it. So you have the Linux agent, I call it, some name you can give it. And then you can choose that as going to be a permanent agent here and then say create. Now, when you create team, remember, it is going to give you the default configurations like description and the number of executors, like this one team, like the number of concurrent builds on the Jenkins agent you want to run. Concurrent in the sense the number of parallel executions that you can run, right? That is what the Jenkins is allowing you to configure for you. Now, if I say one, which means only one job can run at a time on the agent VM, which may not be a good practice. We may increase up to 4 or 5. Depends on the capacity, team. Remember, the more number of parallel jobs means more number of resource will be required. So based on the resource availability on the agent, you configure the number of executors that will help us in running the number of jobs in parallel on the agent side as well. It will says team here. A good value to start with is the CPU cores on the machine, right? Remember, before you configure the executors, you need to know the CPU core on the machine, right? Depends on the CPU bound. CPU memory bound always the number of executors are. So be careful about that. So I'm keeping the value 14. If you want to increase more, you do it. But again, based on the resource availability. Second thing is that team about the remote root directory. Now, what is this remote root directory team? Here, we need a target workspace. Understand team here, agent needs to have a directory dedicated to Jenkins. Specify the path to this directory on the agent VM. It is best to use an absolute path such as the var Jenkins. If you are Windows machine, then you have this one. This should be a path local to the agent machine. Now understand team, the simple scenario I'll tell you. Whenever we executed any job, you know that team, the data is generated under the workspace, right? Like this. So the understanding here is that the same workspace will be created on the agent as well when you execute a job on the agent. So technically, which path you want to do that? So you may create any path, team, doesn't matter. So I'm going to the OPT folder. Now you can create, say that a Jenkins agent home something. This is the Jenkins home. This is the agent home. You may create any directory, doesn't matter. Just an empty directory you created and give the necessary permissions to have no permission issues. I'm just giving a full privilege on the agent home so that it does not have a problem when master trying to communicate here. And similarly, I'm just going to put this path now as my Jenkins agent home, right, which is local on the agent VM on my remote root directory path, which means whenever the job is executed on the agent side now, the output, the workspace will be created on the Jenkins agent side. That is the idea. Okay. Now, along with this, team, the labels, you may configure anything. It's just a random name. You may configure it, depends on your requirement, right? And along with that team, the usage, you see that we are asking the manager to use this node as much as possible. Means to offload the manager is always meant for the administrative activities. And then we create multiple agents and we ask manager to utilize the nodes as much as possible. If at all a node or the agents are busy, then only the master can take the work. So that's how we're trying to set the default setting. Now, along with that, a launch method, we see that it says launch agent by connecting it to the controller. Now, controller is nothing but your master key, nothing but the UI that you're seeing right now. You have a different launch methods as well. You may use the SSH method and other methods, but technically this is the best option. We do it always. Yeah, the launch agent by connecting it to the controller is the best option we're gonna do. So once we're done with that heap, if you have some other configurations, you do it, but these are all not necessary here, right? This is not necessary here. So this is what you do it. This is what you just say that I use WebSocket. That is the default setting. You must be checking it. And availability is to keep this node as much as possible available. Now, manager will control these things, team. You don't need to change any of these default settings here. And then finally, save the configuration. Now, once you save the configuration here, team, remember the Linux agent configuration is here, but still it is not online. Remember, it is still a mark. If you click on the agent, it says that it is still not working. You still have to do something, team, here that run from the agent command line. Now it says that you need to run these commands on the agent command line to launch the agent, as we choose the option called as launch the agent by connecting it to the controller. Now it is asking you to run these instructions on the agent side. It is mandatory, remember, you use one by one. Say this one, I go copy this instruction. Now remember, team, this is like the agent installation, you may call it. So on this JAgent form, nothing as of now. If I try to run this command, it just downloads Jenkins binary, agent binary called agent.jar file. Now remember, this is the Jenkins agent installation, nothing else to be done. Now, once you install the agent, we need to start launch the agent. That is what we're going to do now. We can launch the agent by running this command. And here you're giving the master IP address port number as well. This is a private IP. Now, this is what it is. You copy the entire command, whatever is given, and execute on the agent. And remember to put at the end %t, that is necessary. Now, when you run this, it will start connecting to the master. Now you see at the last, it says info is connected, means it is now successfully connected to the master, and it is running in the background. If I go and check team, you will be seeing that there is a agent process will be running right now. See that there is a java-jar agent. It is trying to connect to the master and the agent home. So this is the idea, team, that the way you launch an agent and that is connected to the master now, just go and refresh the page. You see now agent is connected, right? Now we have successfully configured, remember that we have successfully configured an agent or a team member with the team manager. So there is a team manager, which is a built-in node. Now the Linux agent is a team member that is connected to the master and will be listening to the manager all the time. Now the default setting now, team, remember, right? You don't need to tell the manager anything. Now we're not delegating anything, dedicating anything as of now. Now, if I go and run this pipeline, team, remember, there is a possibility the manager will automatically delegate the work onto the agent. Say if I want to see that, I'll go to the compile output, go to the console output. Now you see this team, this is still running on the same manager node itself, right? But let's say that where does the code review will run? Now I cannot guarantee team. This is what you see, the code review, the console output. Okay, everything is by default running on the master node itself. If it is not delegating any work onto the worker node team, then we will see that technically how to delegate a specific thing. Is my screen not clear, team? What do you mean it's not clear? Never faced this problem, guys. I don't know why with the IntelliPad is getting, because I deliver regularly, means Zoom, right? I go every day corporate training, but I never saw this problem with my thing. In between it goes blur. I'm not sure. No, see, I can show you my internet is of very high speed. Okay. Not sure. Not sure where is the problem, guys. Is it with me? Because I'm using a very high internet speed as well. Is my screen good now? Okay. So it takes some time to load the page. Okay. So this is now our team. You can see that the pipeline is ran successfully. This text is not visible, the top one, that is very good, but I hope the text on this screen is visible now, right? Not sure what's wrong here. Every few seconds it goes to blur. Okay. Okay, guys, if you are seeing that, let me fix that quickly before I discuss anything. Just give me a second. Let me stop the screen and then we'll see if there is something like I reset my router once. Give me a couple of seconds. See, as of now, you just saw that it was giving me the good speed actually. There is no, there is a latency. Let's say that let me restart the router once. Just give me a second, guys. Just give me a second. Team, is everyone able to hear me again? Can I just get a quick information, please? Okay, great. Let me switch between the screens, team, and then just observe it if you are still blurring the screen or something. Okay. Let me switch the screen now. I switch to the terminal. I didn't do anything, guys. I just re-logged in. That's it. I just disconnected my router and then I re-logged in. That's all I did. I'm not sure if it is from my side or not. Is it good now switching the screen as well? There's nothing I did, guys. I just rejoined the meeting. That's all I did it. Okay. Switching screen is also good. I'm just switching the screen between the terminal and the browser. Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, so let's do this then. Sorry, team, for the things, whatever happened. I don't know how it happened, but let's start now. Nothing from my side I did anything, I just except that restarting the router. Okay, so this one, team, as we are discussing about the default executions now that the Jenkins server would do, right? Let's say that, let me log in back to my Jenkins console. Now here, team, as I said, that whenever we execute anything, Jenkins may decide. Remember, team, this is the, right? This is the master server, right? This is the master server, right? Whenever the execution happened, the master may decide to run on the agent as well. We don't know, team. That's what I'm telling you. It may decide to run, or it may run it by default on its own as well. Now, if it is not running in that way, remember, we can actually go ahead and then execute or delegate a specific job into a specific agent as well, that we can do that. Now, again, no voice. Is my voice audible, team, everyone? Hello? Okay, I think it is a problem with them then. Okay, great. So now moving on, team. As we keep running, team, but you see that none of the jobs are actually being executed on the agent. But if you want to run a specific job on a specific agent side, team, now you can reconfigure the job, right? Now, under this reconfiguration, team, any job that you go and configure it, if you go to the general section, now under the general section, team, you see there is an option called restrict where this project can be run, right? When I restrict this one, team, or select this option, you see the two options here. You need to do that you may select, which is the built-in node, which is the one which is the master always, right? So technically, we give the agent name, which we configure, which is the Linux agent like this. You may select a specific agent where the job should be executed. So I'll apply this configuration, save it. Now, similarly, team, you may run every job, whatever the job that you specifically want to run on a specific node always, a specific agent always. You just choose that job to be configured like this, right? So this is the idea, team. Now, once you save this particular configuration, right? So is there any problem here, right? So save this configuration, team. Now, once you save the configuration, now whenever you execute this particular job, team, somebody is trying to execute from my console. I believe that's for the error we got it. So please, team, do not do that. So here it is, team. Now, when you save the configuration, if I go and check the console output, now you should be seeing this, team. Technically, it shows that on the top where it is running. Now, on the console log, you always see that on which agent the job is executed on always. So started by the user admin, building remotely on Linux agent. This is what you're doing it, right? So this is the idea, team. Is what's happening here. Why? Okay. I don't know what's wrong here. So going back team again, as I've shown you, the project job was successfully running. Team, if anybody has logged into my console, please do not do that. I request again, do not do that. So here it is, team. I see that it is executed on specifically this one. This is what it is. So this is what you can see clearly, team. Now, whenever it is ran successfully, right? Whenever it is ran successfully, team, it is going to run on my server. I think I disconnected the internet, team. I need to restart my session. Just one second. So relog into the server. Now the executions will happen on the agent side, team, like we created the agent home on the side here, which is the OPT that you can clearly see that. Now where you see the Jenkins agent home, this one. Now somebody logged in as admin, maybe I've finished, that is the idea. So here it is. You can see that he under the agent installation directory or under the agent home folder, where you see that it is the workspace, right? This is the workspace folder, and where you see that the job that we executed, which is the package job, is generating the output here itself. Means all the results, team, including the war file, cloning, everything will happen here, and all the content will also be saved here by default. Right? So this is the understanding, team, about how do you connect an agent to a Jenkins master and how do you delegate the work onto the agent server, right? So this is the logic. And again, remember, you always have to go to the specific job configuration to delegate that particular job onto the agent server. If you want to restrict it, choose always the restrict option, restrict where this project can be run, and give the agent name on which you want to run the job always, right? So this is the idea, team. And if I build now again, the 12th execution here, that will happen as well on the agent server itself. So if I go and see the console output, now you see again, it is going through the Linux agent, which means that it is also generating the workspace under the configuration we did it, right? So this is the logic, team, about how you understand on connecting the agent. Now you may delegate or dedicate a pipeline one to a specific agent, pipeline to a specific agent. Like you may have different teams running these specific jobs on the different agent machines, so that it will be easy that one team will not be disturbing the other. That is the idea. How do you bring the latest package that is created on the agent to the master? Means you want to copy this war file to the master node. Is that what you're trying to do, Upendra? Now we don't do that, Upendra. We don't get the things to the master anytime. Let them run anywhere in the real time. Whatever the packages that are built are actually published into an external server, right? Now remember, whether the war file is built here, the scenario, what we do in the real time, whether the war file built here, whether a war file built here, we don't store them on the either on the agent or the master. We technically push them to an external repository, right? This is like an external repository server, like your cloud storage or the Google Drive, you think about it, right? We call it as the external repo. We use normally here the Nexus or the JFrog as a solutions, remember? Most of the time, Artifactory. Now these are called as the Artifactory repositories, right? Artifactory, we call it. Now what is an Artifactory? It is a repository where all these war files generated are published. Means every time we generate the thing, a Jenkins itself will push the war into this external repository and store every version of the war file here. So no need of getting the file from the agent to the master. Rather choose one common solution where everything can be found. Because something on a VM cannot be guaranteed, right? If the VM crash, that somebody logged into the VM, something may get deleted. And we may also need to have ample of storage to store n number of war files. Because if I build 10 times a day, 10 war files are generated, correct or not? Right? 10 times building, 10 times war file. So we need to store every war file carefully so that one of the war file or something unique can deploy into the servers, Right, team, everyone? Is this clear, everybody? Am I clear about now how do we actually do it? Any questions on the master agent configuration setup? And then once an artifact is generated, right, can be pushed into an artifactory. Remember, team, the executable, right? The executable or a deployable package, right? Example, the var is also, right? Remember that is also called as an artifact. Don't confuse the name, team. What is an artifact here? In a technical terminology wise, we call it the executable or deployable package, like var file we got it, is also called as an artifact in the real time, right? Anything it is, doesn't matter .exe or a .dll, .msi, .var, .jar, .ea or something. The extensions or deployable format of a code is always called as an artifact. Now, these artifacts are stored in the artifactory, which is a repository, just like the Google Drive. Think about it, right? Just like the Google Drive, where these artifacts are uploaded and stored, the different versions of them are stored, managed at one centralized place. That will give us the benefits again to deploy this artifact into the different servers, like the dev, QA, production servers easily. Rather taking from the Jenkins server, we take from the centralized repository. That's a good way of managing the things. That is the idea. Okay. So when the job completes, we need to clean out the workspace command should be added in the pipeline script. You may do that, Ganesh. That's your choice, right? That configuration can be done, right? So within the job configuration of the package itself, or whenever you do it, once it is uploaded, yes, once it is uploaded, then you clean up. Don't clean up immediately, but say that you can clean up the things with the various configurations can be done, right? Somewhere here, custom workspace, you can use it, right? A clean workspace, you can do it. Something settings are can be done. Technically, there are many jobs configurations we do it. Delete a workspace before build starts. That you see that? Here it is, right? Delete the workspace before the build starts means clean up and then regenerate everything that you wanted. So this is the idea. We can configure everything you wanted through the Jenkins UI so that it will clean up and then starts working with it. It will burden the agent, it will burden the master. There are the best practices we can follow accordingly, but this is the setting we do it. Okay. So this is the idea, team, about Jenkins administration, where we talk about the security, right? Security is about restricting the users who can do what. And the second thing is about, on configuring Jenkins master agent configuration. This is must concept team we used in the, or everybody used in the real time. As a DevOps engineer, you must know this. If you ask to implement this one, you should be able to implement it without any confusion. And I believe that I'm clear about this. So how to submit the Jenkins assignment? I think you need to put everything into a PDF document, screenshots, everything, Shubham. The same way you did Git, right? Everything you did with the Git have to follow the same thing. You can send, you can go through the LMS and then submit your ticket. Not sure if I have LMS here somewhere. No, you need to log into your LMS and there is a support ticket. You have it. You follow the same approach. Okay. So any confusions again on the Jenkins master agent concept? It is called master slave controller agent. So people do call with different names. So do not confuse. That's what is my intention. So I believe that I'm clear on the concept now about what is master agent and everything. Any questions? Any questions, team? No? Okay, so this is about the Jenkins team. I believe we have done pretty much what we want to do with Jenkins. One last thing, we also need to understand about how to deploy. Remember, we also need to understand about how to deploy the var file that we generated, right? We built an application team, but I haven't shown you about how to deploy this application in this one. We can use a simple ways, but the understanding is that I'll give you a better approach that we always follow in the real time, but that will take some time. So we will discuss about the deployment, manual deployment. Don't forget, don't do about the CD right now, continuous deployment automation that we will do later. I will be showing you the manual way of deploying an application to a web server like Tomcat, maybe example. Then once the application is deployed, then how do we access that application? Just like any website, you may think about it, right? So those things we do it in the tomorrow session early. And then after that, we will move on to the next topics accordingly. But otherwise, team, again, if I start any new topic today, it will take time. So I don't want to start any. I believe you're all good with this. So any questions we can discuss? Otherwise, I'm done from my side today. And I strongly suggest everybody to practice everything, what we're doing it without a fail, please. We'll do directly from the server, first of all, Ramakant, then later you can automate it, right? So that will be easy. If you don't know how to do it on a server, you cannot implement via Jenkins. So I'll show you how to do it on a server, first of all. Then we can do it via the Jenkins later. Do we need to specify the agent information in master on which agent pipeline should run? If we have multiple agents, it will automatically split the work. Now that's what we did, right, Veera? That's what we did, right? On the Jenkins console, we said the compile job should be running on agent, Linux agent. That's what I've shown you, right? So yes, you have to configure that which pipeline should run on which agent so that the work will be splitted without disturbance to other one. That is the idea. Okay, Veera? That's what we did in the configuration, as you can see on my screen. What is the meaning of LSW icon? Where? This one, small, medium, large. This is a large, this is a medium, and this is the small screen. When the font will be reduced, that's it. That's a small, medium, large, Raju, right? That's what you see that. The small, medium, large. How can I sign in Jenkins? Why not Ubuntu agent? What do you mean by why not Ubuntu agent? Our thing is Ubuntu agent, right? You name accordingly, Shubham. Don't confuse, right? This is an Ubuntu OS only. What do you mean by Ubuntu agent? Ubuntu is a Linux, right? So that's why commonly I said it's a Linux agent. If you want to rename the Linux agent to Ubuntu agent, go ahead and name it. The name you give it, I say Naresh agent. Does it matter there? It doesn't matter. The name of the agent doesn't matter for you. Okay. How can I sign in Jenkins? Shweta, are you signing into your own Jenkins? I'll come to your question, Vishal. Just give me a second. Okay. Where did you set up the Jenkins? On the EC2 server? Where did you set up the Jenkins, Shweta? Is the Jenkins up and running? Okay, Shweta, are you going to say something? Is your Jenkins? No, you didn't set up, then how can you log in? So I have shown you very clearly on the yesterday session how to set up the Jenkins and how to log into the Jenkins, right? So you need to use the steps one by one. Follow these steps, execute the steps. Don't think about how to log in before even you do it, right? So do things first of all, execute the things, set up the thing, then follow the guide one by one. You will understand slowly. Please set up the Jenkins, then try logging in. The way you log in is simple, that you need to go ahead and then choose the instance IP address and then the port number of the process, which is 8080 by default, and then do the necessary task, right? Like you see in my screen right now, this is what you're gonna hit it. This is what you're going to hit it in your browser. Replace that IP address with your own EC2 public IP. After you installing the Jenkins, you should be able to, log in or set up the Jenkins accordingly. Again, one more time, please follow the recording, this one. It is not the Linux, Karthik. It is the item application I installed on my Mac. Okay, it is not the Linux, basically. It is the item putty tool like, right? It is like a mobile external tool that you install. It is called SSH client, where it allows me to split the screen into multiple windows. You don't need to squeeze the window. Okay, so coming back to your question, Vishal. Okay. Okay, so think about it, Vishal. I hope you're listening to me, right? Think about it, just a general idea. Where do you live? Where do you live in your city? You live in which city? Okay, Kolhapur. Okay, think about it. This is the one. First of all, this is what is me, right? So think about it. This is Naresh, right? Why is this so much zoomed? I don't know. Just again. Okay. So think about it. This is me, first of all, right? This box is me, Naresh, right? And assume that this is the city where I live in, for example. Assume that I'm living in city Hyderabad, which is the Telangana state, whatever it is. And you live in Maharashtra, Kolhapur city, I believe, right? Say this is your Vishal, right? Vishal. Yeah, it's Vishal, right? So you, Vishal, you live in Kolhapur, for example, right? So if I want to reach out to you, first of all, from my city to your city, what I should know your city name, correct or not? That is the idea. So think about it, the same thing, and from your laptop, right? Think about the scenario. This is your laptop, and this is a server running in the AWS cloud, server in AWS cloud. Okay. Now to reach to the server, you have an IP address using the internet, right? Remember that the IP address is like your city name, for example, right? This is the IP address that you are getting here. So think about it. This is the address that I want to reach out to from my laptop to this server. But I'm reaching this server, I'm reaching your city, but tell me, can I reach to your home directly, or I need to know something else to reach to your home? What I should know to reach to your home after I reaching your city? You should know your door number, your address, right? Exact address or the address. Now that address is like your port number, right? Within your city, remember that there are many people who live in. Every people have a specific address to reach, correct? So within a server as well, right? Remember the server is like a city here. Within that server, there are many application processes are running, right? So think about it, to reach to each specific application, I have a specific address. Now that specific address, I'm calling it as the port. If I have some other application, that address can be something different. Now from my laptop, if I want to reach to your home, the address is like Kolhapur, right? And then your address. This is the URL. Now, same way, it is the IP address colon the port number that I use it. Make sense now? Understood the scenario, how the port number works? I hope this is clear to rest everyone as well, how you understand it. It is using a protocol. So what does it use doesn't matter. Internally, I'm reaching there, right? Whether you use a road route, right? Whether you use a flight, whether you use a train. Now, I don't want to know all those things, how it is established, a road trail, right? It established how the flight works, how the road works, right? We don't want to know all those things initially. If you know how to construct a road, how to build a flight, how to build a train track, that will be good. That's like a TCP IP, right? Ganesh. Without knowing that TCP IP as well, I'm reaching to you. This is what the understanding. Can you give a list of ports for different applications? Those are configurable value, Vishal. I cannot say this will be the standard port number, okay? The address is customizable, right? The port number is customizable value. Now, I cannot give a concrete value that this application use this one, this application is. So I can change my Jenkins port number to whatever the number I want, 1, 2, 3, 4. The default port range that is used in a server is from 0 to 65,535 something, right? 65,535. So there is basically a port range, number range that is used from 0 to 65,535. The port may fall under this range. Any number between this range can be used on my server. So each value for application 1, I give 1, 2, 3, 4. Application 2, I give 90, 90. So that's a configurable value. So you cannot say that until you configure that value, right? So how do I configure? That is with the software configuration, you come up with that value, right? So whenever you actually install a particular software, you actually can configure that value according to your requirement. For example, the default Jenkins configuration is here. The default Jenkins, right? If I go to the Jenkins configuration, some settings are done in the file that Jenkins use it. So in this one, you might see a port number. The HTTP port number is 88. But again, I go and change this port number to some value, 9090 something, and I restart my service, it becomes 9090. So technically, there is no constant value for that. Different applications may use different port numbers. You need to read through the documentations to understand what port numbers are configured. That is how you understand, Vishal. Okay. HTTP will use 80, Ganesh, not 8080, right? The default HTTP is always 80. Default HTTPS is always 443. There are the values. Okay. So I believe, team, everyone else is clear now on how do we work, how Artifactory works, how Google Drive works. Aishwarya, Sir Ashwin. How the Google Drive is working for you? The simple question, simple answer, right? So the Google Drive is something that is set up by somebody and giving you. You need a drive.google.com with an account, credentials to log in. Then you start uploading the file, correct or not? The same thing here, the artifact is also like a Google Drive. You install on a server, first of all, and you set up an account. Then you log into that account and upload it. Now, if you're interested in knowing setting up the Artifactory, right, here it is, right? You can simply set up, you go to the JFrog folder on my Jenkins here. I have given a clear instruction on how to set up a JFrog Artifactory. So you need to install this JFrog Artifactory on a VM, right? So we follow the instructions. You need to follow a few instructions like this, and then you need to watch Jenkins setup, like how it connects to the things. You normally give the username and password, sub Artifactory name. Yes, some part of it you can free. Means there is some kind of the part that you can use for free. But if you want like enterprise like features, you may actually go ahead and then go for the licensing. Okay. Not everything is free. Not all the functionalities in an Artifactory is free. The basic upload, download can be done for free, but the additional enterprise level management solution comes with a cost. Okay. So this is the idea. So whenever you're connecting to an Artifactory, you just give the Artifactory server ID, server address like drive.google.com, and then you give the username and password so that it will start connecting and then allow you to push, pull the images. No, push, pull, upload, download, I call it in a way, right? So you can just upload and download the WAR files like this. I've given some examples, right? So Git rebase is very simple, Ganesh. If you have time, now I can explain for you in a minute. What is Git rebase basically? Merge or rebase, right? Helps you, right? Update code from one branch into another branch. Okay, this is the idea. Understood? The basic idea is that whether you do a merge, whether you do a rebase, it is like updating the code from merging the code from one branch into another branch, whether it's from local to the remote, remote to the local, or two branches within the remote with a pull request, you do it, or whether you have two branches within the local, doesn't matter. So one branch into another branch is something we call it as the merge or a rebase. Now, what happens internally when you do a merge? For example, take a repository with a main branch. Now you have certain changes or the commits available, right? Let's say that I'll call this as the main branch. We have it M1, M2, M3 as the different commits with the different changes available. Then remember, all this together is a V1. We released it, as you know. Now you started creating a branching. Say that you created a feature branch. You took the copy of the master main branch, right? M1, M2, M3. You also created a branch like this one, M1, M2, M3, correct? Now this is very straightforward, you know that. Agree? Agree? Now Ganesh, this is what happens, right? Now assume that both have started working on the defect and feature in parallel. So one developer working on the feature, one developer working on the defect branch. So think about it. Now the defect branch is moved, means M1, M2, M3, then he committed something like D1 and D2, some changes run towards the defect related. So he did it. Now assume that the defect is getting released now into the market first. Before the feature released, say that the defect is released into the market. So you may take the code from the defect branch and release it. But after releasing it, then you may merge back to the, what do you do? Git merge back to the main, right? Git merge the defect something. So assume that you go to the main branch. Now assume that git merge defect into main branch. That is what we're doing it. The simple idea in this situation, right? Think about it. If I go and do this, right? What happens is that the main branch will update like this, M1, M2, M3, then D1, D2, correct? All the changes, commits, all the commits, changes from the defect branch are now updated into the main branch. And then you see that, okay? Now you perform the merge here. Remember that I said it's like a merge, a simple merge, you did it. Now, whenever you do a merge, it's simply updating the code from the defect into the main branch. Now, remember that in this scenario, the main branch is moved ahead, right? After feature is put or feature is created. Can I say that? Understand the scenario here that main branch is moved ahead after the feature is created. Assume that here, the feature branch was also worked on by some developers. So they also moved the code like M2, right? M3, say F1, F2, something. Something like the feature branch was also working on in parallel. So the feature code was also moved. But primarily that defect, when the defect was merging, there is no change in the main branch. This is what is the idea. But now in this scenario, think about it. The main branch is moved ahead after the feature is created, right? Now assume that if now do a git feature, right? Sorry, the git merge feature into main. Now, this will, remember that this will cause some problem while merge because the main is moved ahead. Remember that? It will not overwrite, nothing overwrites will happen, but the scenario will be different. It will create some problem in the log history, I say that, right? It will have some problem in the log history. Something will, we can see that practically later, but this is the idea. The git merge feature will not work here. So remember that if you try to, the main branch is moved ahead after the feature is created. Any branch, remember that if you take if you create a branch from an existing branch and that branch is moved, the main branch is moved ahead from where you take the copy. Now, it is not a recommended thing to do a git merge directly, right? Now, what happens here is that, team, if I do a git merge scenario, the main branch will become, right? If we do merge, right, main branch will be like the main M1, M2, M3, right? And say that you have the D1, D2. And you may expect that this will be added like this, F1, F2, right? This is expected if you do a merge, right? But this will not happen like this. It will mess up like this one. For example, the feature thinks that's still the master of the M3 only. So what it is do that it will try to add F1, F2, then move the D1, D2 to last. This is what happens technically. Okay, remember that. In the scenario here, if I do a merge, the feature code will be moved to the first because the feature thinks the master is at M3 still. It will move the feature code first of all, and the D1 will be moved to the last again. But remember, if I go in the history now, this is V1, this is plus this one going to be Y1.2. Now, is this looking like a right order in your main branch? What do you think, Ganesh? Is it the right order? Now, let's say the feature release to be the 1.5. Now you see 1, then 1.5, then 1.2. It is going to mess up the entire order in the log history. That becomes the problem this one. Now, this is where instead of doing this one, it is recommended, right? It is recommended to do the git rebase, right? It is also merge only, remember that. Git rebase when the main branch is moved ahead, right? After we create a feature branch. After we created feature branch. Something, any branch, if it is things are moving down, then this is what is recommended. Now, instead of doing this one, we say that a git rebase, right? Git rebase the feature into the main branch. This is what is recommended, okay? Or let's say that first of all, we do a git rebase the main. First, you do this one, okay? Before you merge it, first git rebase a main into the feature branch. That is a process to be followed here. So the feature branch now becomes M1, M2, and M3. Then it gets the default main code and adds as the base to the feature branch. So it becomes the D1 and then D2, then F1, F2. So the git rebase main into the feature branch has to be done first of all, so that the feature branch gets the last commit as the base for the feature branch. Now, once you do this, you may do it. Now git merge into the, right, git merge feature into the main branch. This is what it is going to do. So this is where now if I do this, the main branch will become the proper order again. M1, M2, M3, D1, D2, and F1, F2. So this is to reorder, recreate the proper flow in the log history, and the version tracking is done via the git rebase here. Now, I hope this makes sense for you, Ganesh, and this is what the idea is. Theoretically, and you may try this practically as well, and then try doing this one. Hope that this is clear, right? The concept is clear. What is the rebase and when you should do the rebase here? Okay. Thank you for that comment, Prathamesh. It's all the experience you may gain. That's all I can tell you, but yeah, it depends. Okay. Thanks for that comment. Just do yoga sometime. That will be the key to do everything again. Okay. Thank you guys for the compliments here, but But I hope that you guys are clear now with the concept here. Okay. So keep this in mind and then try this one time at least, condition everybody. So you get a clarity by yourself automatically. Okay, team, I think I need to leave now. I have some other thing to catch up at 9:30. So please allow me. I'll see you tomorrow with more content again. Thank you all. Have a great day and take care and bye-bye.